Tonight's global brief: clear, concise, and ahead of the curve. From markets to climate and tech, we scan reliable sources so you don't have to. Your world, briefing ready.
Hello and welcome to World News. I'm Eve, your anchor in our global newsroom. In the next minutes, we'll bring you verified headlines from geopolitics, business, and technology, with clear context and concise takeaways. You'll learn what happened, why it matters, and what to watch next, without noise or speculation. Stay with us as we start at the desk with today's top stories, then zoom in on the trends shaping tomorrow. Let's begin.
Let's dive right into a really high-stakes confrontation that just unfolded on the Mediterranean Sea. We're talking about a fleet of aid boats packed with international activists that has just had a major run-in with the Israeli military.
And get this number in your head: 39. That's how many boats Israeli forces intercepted as they were trying to make their way to the Palestinian enclave. So we're not talking about one or two ships here. This was a huge organized flotilla.
But here's the detail that really made this a global headline. One of the passengers on board was, well, one of the most famous activists on the planet, Greta Thunberg. Her presence on that boat immediately took this from a regional story to something the entire world was watching.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the interception itself. What exactly went down out there on October 2nd?
All right, so here's the breakdown. The fleet, which called itself the Global Secundum Flotilla, was stopped by Israeli forces about 70 nautical miles from the coast, pretty far out at sea. Israeli soldiers then boarded all 39 vessels, and the entire convoy was rerouted to the Israeli port of Ashdod.
And here's where things get a little murky. According to the flotilla organizers, their communications went completely dead right at the most critical moment. They say their live video streams, which were broadcasting everything to the world, were scrambled just as the soldiers were coming on board. A total information blackout. And that brings us to the absolute core of this whole thing, because there are two completely different narratives here about what this flotilla was and why it was stopped. It really depends on who you ask.
So on one side, you've got the flotilla's mission. They say it was purely humanitarian. They had over 500 people on board, including politicians and lawyers, and their goal was to deliver essential medicine and food, and in doing so, break what they see as an illegal blockade. But then you have Israel's side. They argue the flotilla was breaking a lawful blockade of a war zone. They even offered to take the aid and transfer it through their own safe established channels. Because that offer was refused, they saw the whole mission as a political stunt, not a humanitarian one. And this quote from Israel's ambassador to Italy really just sums up their whole position perfectly. He said that systematically refusing to hand over the aid proved that the objective wasn't about helping people, but about being provocative. Now, an incident this charged with this many international players, it wasn't going to happen in a vacuum. It immediately sent ripples all around the world.
The international condemnation came in fast and hard. We saw it from Turkey, from Colombia, and from Malaysia. And it's worth noting that many of these countries had their own citizens on board those boats.
And the language being used wasn't your typical diplomatic wrist slap. I mean, listen to this. Turkey's foreign ministry called Israel's actions an act of terror. That kind of language shows you just how seriously this was taken in some parts of the world.
And these weren't just empty words. They were backed up with some pretty serious action. Colombia actually expelled Israel's entire diplomatic team and ripped up a free trade agreement. Turkey opened up a criminal investigation. And then you had protests erupting on the streets in Italy, Colombia, Greece, Ireland, and Turkey. In Italy, unions even called for a general strike over this. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, we need to zoom out a bit. Because this event didn't just happen out of the blue. It's actually just the latest chapter in a long, long history of attempts to break the Gaza blockade by sea. So this whole saga really kicks off back in 2007. That's when Israel first imposed its naval blockade on Gaza. Then, in 2010, there was a tragically deadly incident where 9 activists were killed during a similar flotilla attempt. Fast forward to October 7, 2023, the Hamas-led attack on Israel which triggered the current war, and that just raised the stakes for everyone and led us directly to this latest interception in 2025.
And hovering behind all of this, behind the politics and the naval blockades, is a truly staggering human toll. According to Palestinian health authorities, more than 65,000 people have been killed in Gaza since this conflict began. And really, that number is the powerful motivation that drives activists to take on these incredibly risky missions.
So in the end, we're left right back where we started, with this one big unresolved question that frames this entire event. Was this a genuine humanitarian mission, trying to get aid to people who desperately need it? Or was it a calculated political provocation designed to challenge Israel on the world stage? The answer, as it so often is with things like this, probably depends entirely on who you're asking.
That's your briefing from World News. I'm Eve. Before we go, a quick recap. Key decisions in policy and markets, signals from tech and security, and the human angles behind the numbers. For more depth and verified updates, follow my channel World News Eve and enable notifications. We'll be back soon at this desk with clear facts and practical context you can use. Until then, stay informed and stay kind. Like my video, leave your comments, and help me bring news to everyone. From me to all of us, be happy.